Okay, welcome to the Artist Roundtable, where we will be discussing the artist's purpose in meeting the moment. And before I start introducing everyone, I was going to throw in the question, what is meeting the moment? And I'll go ahead and read a quote by Maria Hill that says, "When you remind us who we are, when you lift us from habit to inspiration, when you touch the fantastic in the ordinary, when you create a different pathway from the fear world to the inspire world." And with that, I'll just go ahead and start introducing everyone. I'm Jordan Jenkins. I'm a first year acting student at the theater school at DePaul University. And Angela Wilson is the founder and president of the Angel Wing Project. And then Nicole Caracia is the artistic director at the Chesapeake Arts Center. And then I'll go down the list. And Derwin, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Angela, for having me. Thank you to the Angel Wing Project. I'm Derwin King. I'm an actor and performer. I'm also the co-host of a podcast called That Black Boy Joy Podcast. You can stream us on all streaming platforms where you usually get your podcasts. I have been acting for about 10, 11 years now in my life. And I've had the pleasure of working with Angela at least 5 times now. I think it's more than that. Most of those have been with Tears of the Soul, and I've also worked with Regina, Leah, Pierre, Joelle, and Leslie, and Reginald. So I'm so happy to be here to speak with you guys about a passionate subject that I love.
Awesome. And with that, we'll go ahead and go to Joelle and then Kobe.
All right, guys. So my name is Joelle. I've been acting for about 10 years now. I kind of met Angela just by happenstance when she was looking for someone to be a part of an absolutely phenomenal production, Tears of the Soul. And we've kind of been attached at the hip ever since. Acting is the biggest passion of my life, and I'd love to talk about it. So thank you guys so much for even doing this and even asking me to be a part of it.
Hey everyone, my name is Kobe Morrison. I'm an actor, singer, puppeteer, and filmmaker. And I've started getting serious about all the crafts, since middle school. I'm in college now, and I'm a sophomore at McDaniel studying theater arts and cinema. And I met Angela through the Angel Wing Project too. And I recently was in the 2020 virtual poetry showcase in December. So yeah, and I also do a lot of other things surrounding arts and performing arts, like visual art, dancing, a lot of things, but mainly acting, singing, puppeteer, filmmaking.
Great. And then I'll go to Leah and then Leslie.
Hi, my name is Leah Mallory, and I'm a senior in high school. I actually go to a high school with a performing and visual arts program, and I go to that school for writing. I'm also an actor with the Angel Wing Project, founded by no one other than Angela Wilson, and I'm currently also an intern with her, and I'm also very excited to be here and to be talking about this amazing topic.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Barnett. I started acting maybe about 10 years ago. I love it. It's my passion, like everyone else. I met Angela for the first time last year for Tears of the Soul. And I'm just so happy to be here to talk about something that I love so much and just to share that joy with everyone. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And then Pierre.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so happy to be part of this very cool virtual panel discussion. I'm also an actor. I'm an entrepreneur, a director, and producer, and I've been doing that a little over 10 years as well, and I had the pleasure of first working with Angela when I auditioned for her for Tears of the Soul. which was an incredible experience, and one that she was, very kind to invite me back for, as we sort of took the show on the road to different locations, which has been really, just a phenomenal experience. So, I'm honored and grateful to be a part of this conversation, and I'm excited to hear what everyone has to say. Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, we're going to go to Regina and then Reginald.
Hello, everyone. My name is Regina Gale Malloy, and I'm one of the more senior, I think, actors panel. I actually started acting 40 years ago when I received the role of Dorothy in The Wiz when I was just 12. I am primarily a vocalist. I sing, but I discovered that I could act too. I've been acting all my life and didn't know it. And then I was like, oh, I think I could actually do this. And then I found out that I could write. So I'm discovering all of these talents that I've been blessed with. And I am so blessed that I met Angela Wilson when I auditioned for Tears of the Soul. It is a phenomenal play. And I got to work with some of the best actors in the business that the world will soon know. And I'm just excited to be here.
This is Reginald Baskerville. I consider myself an entertainer, an educator, entertainer first, with television, film, and voice, as well as theater. And considering theater, thank you, Angel Wing, because to date, Pastor Thompson has probably been the most fun character that I've been able to embody. And I started professionally about 6 years ago. However, while attending Morgan State, I was writing, producing, directing, acting. So I got a chance to learn the craft, and now I get a chance to, participate in a lot of great projects, and it's really, really been fun.
Great. Now, Angela or Nicole, if you want to say anything before we go into questions, I'm going to open that to you.
I'm just really excited just off of the introductions. So, so I'm just anxious to dig in and hear what everyone has to say. These are some incredible people. I wanted to pull them all together. So right now there's just a explosion of artists on this screen, an explosion of amazing talent. And so thank you all for participating. And Nicole?
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm super excited to talk more and go into depth of your passion for the art, because I already feel it just from you guys introducing yourself. So thank you guys for taking the time, and let's get into these questions because I'm eager to hear them, your answers.
Okay, so I'm going to go in a little bit of a different order than what I think everyone got their questions in. But I first want to start off with, do you feel you have a mission as an artist? And if you want to raise your hand, I'll go by that first. So Joelle?
Yes, I absolutely feel that I have a mission as an artist. When I first started acting, even when I was a child, it was just to be expressive, to just be creative, to just do something that's completely different from what I do day to day. As I've grown in my artistry, as I've grown as a woman, as I've grown as a Black woman specifically, and seeing how the world turns and seeing what the past has been like to the present, I absolutely feel my mission for acting has changed 1000%. It's no longer just for the sake of this is just what I was put on this earth to do. Now I realize that my mission is truly to be a teacher, and is truly to be sort of a shed some light on how the past has been and how we can learn from it and move forward, and to really help start those conversations that are really kind of taboo, even in 2021, to be having. So I absolutely feel as though my mission as far as acting, 1000% different.
So when I originally started, the mission was about dollar signs. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna make gazillions of dollars. Right now, although that may be true at some point, one of the things that I realized and kind of echo what Sister Joelle said is, the mission is really about educating people through stories. So whatever character you're playing, whatever group of characters are being played, they're telling that story and people are learning from it. And because of the emotions that's connected to the learning, typically those lessons stay with people. So my mission transitioned from even worrying about money, because you don't chase the money, you kind of chase the dream, right? But in chasing the mission to educate people through telling stories is definitely what transition I've gone through over time, as I've seen, how people kind of interpret the art after they've experienced it.
I kind of want to piggyback off of what Joelle was talking about, like how when I first started out, I was just kind of expressing myself and just having a lot of fun. Like for example, like I said, I'm a filmmaker and a puppeteer, and I have a YouTube channel where I make comedy skits. It's called TCG Puppets. In my first year when I was making the skits, I was just, like, oh, I just want to be so hilarious, like maybe go viral. Da, 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 da. But like as I gotten older and like I'm going into my 5th year doing this now, and I have a little bit of an audience now, I kind of just want to be more contributive to society, and you know like I don't want to be like Sesame Street and all of that, but like at the same time I still want to teach people something. I'm not here to do ABCs 1 2 3s, but like I can teach you guys about, like, I don't know, how to, like, I'm working on my own Black History Month video this month, so that's something where I feel like everybody can be engaged in.
And I just want to add briefly that my mission is to utilize art for healing and restoration. I will only write works that perpetuate those things, participate in works that perpetuate those themes, because many of us are walking around in need of healing, not even realizing how traumatized we've been, and what a beautiful way to receive healing through art. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good segue into the next question. In what ways do you think art is integral to our society? And so I'll go Pierre and then Derwin and then Leslie.
Thank you. Yeah, art is absolutely integral to our society because it's how we can express to each other empathy. Things that there may not be words to really describe. I mean, it's really difficult to convey the kind of pain that some of us feel in society. Through words, and art gives us a way to convey complex things like pain or love in a way that cuts through any kind of barrier, I guess, that language provides, and kind of gets straight to the heart of it. And I think it's really awesome to be a part of that whenever we have the opportunity to. It's like the universal language, I guess, maybe, art.
I appreciate that. I To extend off of that, I think it also is like a really good way of recording what's happening at any given time, right? It's a good timekeeper, good capsule for examining where we are at any given point in society. So on one end, we do get to tell our personal stories, but we also get to tell our collective stories, and we get a chance to if we want to use it as a tool for change as well, like based on what we're seeing right now, this is what I'm describing in my art, and hopefully you can either feel anything you've been, keeping from yourself, or see things the way that I'm seeing them, and that can invoke you to inspire some sort of change.
Yeah, I agree with both points. I just keep thinking of the Nina Simone quote. As artists, we have the responsibility to reflect the times. And now more than ever, we have that responsibility to do so in a way that will touch people and that will finally open their eyes to what society is showing them. I mean, I think that as artists, we we're kind of superheroes in a way. We're kind of superheroes in a way, in the fact that we just have this power within us to really touch and really express and show and teach what may be missing to the everyday eye, or people who are so consumed with their everyday lives. So absolutely, we definitely have that power to do so.
Yeah, if I could just add, really want to piggyback off of what Pierre said about the universal language, because again, I am also a vocalist, and music is such a universal language. I can play an A flat, and it doesn't matter if I'm in France or if I'm in South Africa, they're going to hear the same A flat. And so if I write a melody, doesn't matter what language I speak, that melody can move you. And so it's integral to society because it can tear down racial barriers. It doesn't matter our cultural differences. We can both love that same A flat or that same melody, and thereby finding common ground. So that's how I look at art. It tears down barriers because we can all look at the color purple and say, oh, isn't that beautiful? It doesn't matter who you are, but we can all come together and find that common ground.
And before I go to the next question, Angela, if you want to say something.
She's muted.
Yes, just real quickly, just kind of piggybacking off of Pierre's point about, the way you can express certain things through art that you're not able to express because, it appeals to all of our senses, whether it's something we hear, whether it's something we see. And like Nicole is a amazing photographer. And so she sees things that maybe just the normal eye doesn't see, but the what she does, it speaks to you. So it speaks to our senses. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. And did you have anything, Nicole?
I did. Just to piggyback off of what you guys are saying, and just a simple, if you guys agree, but during this time, I feel as an artist myself and you guys, is that before, when COVID wasn't here, everyone kind of sometimes overlooked art and wasn't, it was kind of an enjoyment, great. But now I feel as the last year, art has been one of the things that's gotten me through this time. And a lot of people that, I talk to that wouldn't really always connect in that way feel a lot stronger. Would you guys agree, like, as artists, that we've really at this time been more impactful to people and people are maybe understanding art a little bit differently?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would 1000% agree with that. People, I definitely agree that art is something that tended to be overlooked, right? It's just, oh, that was a funny movie, haha, and then you move on to the next thing. Oh, did you watch this show? And then you kind of move on to the next thing. And so now what you have is people who maybe were creative in other areas, Now, because everyone's stuck at home, now they're tapping into their creative sides. And so they're expressing art in ways that they never even knew that they had. It is so important. Without art and without music and without art, I mean, it's like, what do you have?
Yeah, and
What do you have, you know?
I kind of feel that, and I don't know about you guys, but it's like that feeling if you go to a concert or a theater show and like that excitement, I feel that that moment when we can all be back together again and that stage, you know, the curtains open up, that it's going to be even more exciting. Like I am so like it's pushing me and it's every day to keep working towards that goal. And I keep just imagining like that moment when the curtain opens or the band comes out or any of that feeling is just thriving through me, and I'm sure it's thriving through you guys of being actors and wanting to just be on stage as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that at the beginning of the pandemic or like early in the summer, when Disney decided to bring out Hamilton. Hamilton was something that I always wanted to see, but remember there was a lottery. You could just never get tickets. It was just horrible. But for it to be in my home, um, I got the feeling like I did as a child when I watched the Fats Waller musical, Ain't Misbehavin'. When I watched that for the first time, it came on NBC, and I think I probably was like 6 years old. And I remember after watching that saying to my parents that I wanted to be the people in the TV. But the fact that that came out on Disney, I turned every device off, turned all my lights off. I got some wine, I got some popcorn. I turned it up as loud as I could so I could give myself the feeling like I was back in the theater. And the fact that Disney Plus is in homes all across the world now you have people in other areas that going to the theater is not the easiest thing to do. It's not the cheapest thing to do, but now it's in their home. And that's such a wonderful feeling to know that our art, whether we're in Hamilton or not, can really touch people everywhere.
Yeah, I think this is a really good segue into our next question, actually, which is how do we use art as I muted myself. How do we use art as a vehicle for healing, change, teaching, restoration, etc.? Whatever you have on that, Pierre and Leslie, if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So last year, 2020, that happened, okay? And we're kind of still in it. And I'm telling you, I can't. The last time I felt the way that I felt on January, was it 5th or January 6th, was 9/11. That was the last time I felt that. January 6th.
Yes.
That was the last time. I mean, certainly in the last 20 years or so, there's been crises and there's been events, but nothing. 9/11 and then January 6th, okay? Resistance. And so what I'm saying is that 2020 offered resistance to the normalness of my experience of life that I just haven't even wasn't aware of that I needed. Not saying I needed it, but it's been artistically helpful since 9/11. And it has caused me to have sort of this sort of existential, almost like awakening of wait, whoa, don't take anything for granted. I mean, the explosion in Beirut, this has been an absolutely eye-opening time for me in my adult life. And the answer to the question is, how do we use art as a vehicle for healing change? Okay, so I think art right now is how we can process this resistance that we're experiencing to what we have all known to be normal for so long. Art's how we can express ourselves and figure out my goodness, what's the next evolution from this point? Resistance can be a good thing because it causes us to be innovative and explore new layers. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, to piggyback on what you said, Pierre, you know, resistance, evolution, the next art explosion, it's going to be huge, like Renaissance. It's going to be another Renaissance. And so many people are going to just want to get their projects out. They're going to want to get their creativity out. And so I think as a collective, that is going to be healing in itself. It's going to heal, you know, individually and collectively. But I think that, like, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that shift, and I'm excited to see how we evolve in our society, and how we treat art from now on. Is it just a pastime, or is it something more vital? My answer is it's something more vital. But you know, collectively, I don't know if the society sees it that way.
Yes, I think the best way how you can use art as a vehicle for healing, change, teaching, and restoration is by really speaking from your personal experience while at the same time having empathy for someone else's experience. And there's kind of like, there's a difference between having both of those things and just empathizing for someone without having that personal experience. Because I don't know, for me, I don't think it would be like, that's like a white writer writing a black story without having any black people get give them feedback on like the realness of it, the authenticity. And like being able to have your real experience and kind of match everyone else's experience and putting your art out there. There's something really special about that. Like I made a video over the summer about patience during the pandemic. And I wrote like an original song for it and everything. And one of my lines in my song was, now I'm here alone. It's not the same to talk to you on the phone. And I was singing it to my cousin. I was like, "What do you think? I'm doing this video, I'm doing this song." And when I got to that part, she's like, "Wow, yeah, that's true." So yeah, it was just something really special about that.
So to kind of go off of what like Leslie, Kobe, and Pierre were saying, I want to speak from like a personal experience, especially involving the healing aspect of this question. I started journaling more over the course of the pandemic because it was a great way for me to kind of dissect and just to kind of understand what I was feeling, since it is a difficult time we're going through. And a topic that would come up frequently in my journal entries was like beauty and like how I look, and it's kind of critical of myself. So what I ended up doing was actually turn this into a project for one of my classes, and I made a spoken word out of it, and I showed it to my classmates. And what ended up happening is that the piece actually touched them, and it changed how they viewed themselves and what they considered like to be beauty, or what the standard is in their ideals. So I think art is a great vehicle for healing, for changing, for teaching, and for restoration, because you don't know, like the little thing you can do. I was just thinking my journal entries was just something small, but I turned it into something, kind of bigger, and it did ended up touching the right people. So.
Love that. And I guess I'll just go ahead and say, since you just talked about like a personal experience, I'll kind of just throw this out here. If you could think of any specific artist or yourself of any form, like whatever art form, whose performance spoke to the pain of society or their art had a unifying effect. So, Joelle, you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Let me tell you. So I actually, and I've seen this, I love documentaries, and I've seen this documentary a few times, but I actually watched it earlier today. And it's called What Happened, Miss Simone, about Nina Simone. And I've always been a big lover of history. And I always listen to a lot of old music and things of that nature. But the song Strange Fruit, that song has been sung by two different people. Billie Holiday has sung it, and Nina Simone. And not to throw any type of shade or anything towards Billie Holiday, but Nina sang that song with such depth, such grit, such sorrow in her tone, in the words, even though the words were exactly the same. It was how she pronounced them. And her going from being a classical pianist to now she's moving more towards activism and singing a song so heavy like Strange Fruit. That song, all these years later, and Nina's, long, God bless her soul, but that song just gets to me. In 2021, hearing her version, it still just gets to me. And I think that she did a fantastic job of even rallying more Black and brown people to fight for the cause, to be vocal about what was happening, and to actually reflect the times. But she probably would be the number one person on my list. It probably would be Nina Simone.
Reginald, if you want to say something, and then Kobe, you can jump in.
I don't know if people have seen the film Antoine Fisher. It's one of my favorites. There's a little scene in there where there's a lady who doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but she is so expressive with the pain that she feels. That lady's name is Viola Davis, and she played that small part and embodied and showcased the level of pain that a mother would feel after leaving their child and then reconnecting with that. And the reason why that resonates with me is I actually had a student who was a behavioral issue for the school. And being one of the individuals dealing with climate, I understand that behavior is language, it's communication. So in dialoguing with that young person, she was very forthcoming in sharing that her mom had left her in a trash can. And then now at age 14, she's dealing with all of that pain through the foster care system. It just, when I connected that child telling me that with Viola Davis's performance, it just really stayed with me, because as an artist, when you're able to dig that deep, and I know Viola Davis is always crying, just to add a little levity to this conversation, but the way in which she delivered that performance, I don't think I'll ever forget it. And I mean, it was a very small part of that film. So, art definitely allows people to connect, to express pain, to showcase it, and to have people, again, going back to teaching through the arts, to learn from it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there's one actor who's been standing out to me of late, and that is Nate Parker. I have watched him transform. He is now not just acting, but he's also taking control, and he's doing directing and writing. But I started to see a shift with him in the film The Birth of a Nation, how he took the title of a very racist movie and he used that title to tell the story of Nat Turner, who fought for freedom. And then I don't know if anyone has seen the most recent movie with Nate Parker. It's called American Skin. American Skin. If you have not, please see it. He not only is the star, he wrote it, and he was the director. And it tells the story of a Black man whose son was shot by the police, and his son was unarmed. He was a 14-year-old. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but he's showing that I want to make sure that justice is served. And so his work of late is speaking to the pain of society, and it's so refreshing He's not just a pretty face. He is that. And he's not just a great actor, but he is now saying, I have a platform. Let me use it because he's not preaching to the choir. We already know about what's happening in society. He's trying to show, I believe, wider America, hey, we're not getting justice here. And I want to show you in a different way where maybe you can see it. So Nate Parker, and when I read the question, he just popped up for me. Go see American Skin. Oh, stream it.
Can I add something also? So this was a personal experience of mine that when I was in the production of Hairspray and we sang I Know Where I've Been, and we were those kids, protesting, and when we had the, at the picket line and everything like that, and just being on stage in that moment, I will never forget that moment. I felt like art became life, and it was hard. It was really hard, just to be in that time and in that space to experience what happened. I wasn't born then, so I didn't know, but to actually, kind of put that on stage and present that to people and show them through our art that, the pain was real, the emotion was real, everything that we were expressing was real. I think that art served its purpose in impacting not only myself but the audience as well.
I want to piggyback off of Reginald's earlier anecdote with Viola Davis, and I just want to say, there's no small parts, right? Like, there's no small parts, and then Viola Davis goes and plays opposite Denzel in Fences, and I mean, my goodness, she's a powerhouse all her own. But it's so I think what I love about that anecdote that you shared is just like, that's right. That was Viola Davis. Like, there are no small parts. You could play itty little tiny part and still, make the difference. And I just think that's a powerful lesson. In terms of an actor or a character that, really resonates with me, it's always been Al Pacino for me, specifically in Dog Day Afternoon. Way before my time, but I love that film and his performance in it. Just that there's a lot of confusion there, and I feel like we're going, like, there's always confusion in the air, and his character trying to grapple with that confusion, rob this bank, deal with a lover, try to get out of it alive, is just it speaks to a lot of what it feels like, I think, for a lot of us today, just to get through a single day. So yeah.
Great. So with that, I'm gonna just jump right into the last question, which is, do you think as artists there is a responsibility to meet the moment? And I'll actually add to that, what are you doing to do so? If anybody wants to speak on that. Joelle?
Yes, I do believe that as artists, there is, we have a responsibility to meet what is currently happening, no matter what is currently happening. But we have to reflect the times. And it's such a kind of a broad statement, but it's, for me, the only statement. You have to reflect the times. What Devin said earlier, that it's kind of a nice capsule, as a time capsule of what is currently happening. And for people who, like myself, are history buffs, I wouldn't know a lot of the stuff that happened in the past had there not been films made about them that got me interested in learning about them. And, reading has kind of become like a lost art form, right? People don't read books anymore. So people just want to be entertained. All right, you want to be entertained? Let me teach you at the same time. So people need to understand what is currently happening so that we know not to make the same mistakes again for the next generation when you guys decide to have kids. So your children and your grandchildren don't go through the same things that my grandparents went through and everybody else's grandparents went through and that we're dealing with right now. So I think it is absolutely our responsibility. And if we don't seize the moment to really talk about what's going on, for me, it makes us just as bad to not even acknowledge it. You know, you have, and I, if we're going to be honest, you know, we've got white supremacy all over this country, right? And so you have some people that are in positions of power that I understand your plight and I see it happening, but they don't want to ruffle any feathers. Nothing will change if those feathers don't get ruffled. And if we don't do our part as artists to bring what is happening in the dark to the forefront, we are just as bad as the people that are in position that can really make some changes. We're just as bad as them if we don't. And that's just my 2 cents.
And then we can go to Derwin, Pierre, Regina, and then Reginald.
I like this question because I think there's so much room for a beautiful nuance to it. Um, I think there's always an opportunity for us to meet the moment in our own way, and in different ways because of that. The first thing I thought of was Tears of the Soul, which ended up being timely, even though it was not set during this time. Like we've been in this battle, this very present battle with white supremacy for a while now. I mean, obviously, overall, we've been in the battle with white supremacy forever, but in the last couple of years, you know, for my lifetime, it has become more apparent. And Tears of the Soul is set in 1964. So here we are, 5, 6, whoa, take it back. 8, my bad. 1968. And so you're looking at something happened decades ago, and it's so relevant. And I think we all have an opportunity in fiction and nonfiction and space movies and cartoon movies to talk about what's happening in the now in a way that tells our own story in our own way and to the appropriate audience. So it doesn't always look like a Selma, or it doesn't always look like a Tears of the Soul. Sometimes it looks like, you know, and this is just really a stretch. Sometimes it looks like the Avengers or something, you know? And it takes this very moment and it puts it in another form in a way that people are being taught and they don't even know it. So I do think we all have a responsibility to do that, but I think there's so much leeway and so much freedom to just have fun and nuance with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to say that you know, for the longest time, I feel I've really struggled with trying to understand what my actual art is. I mean, I've always felt that I'm an artist. I've always like known that, but I couldn't really figure out what am I actually doing. So it's taken me a long time, but I've kind of reconciled it now. I definitely feel like my art is my entrepreneurship. When I think about my life and I think about my actual art, it's my what I'm creating in terms of entrepreneurship. I actually feel that my acting, that gift of acting, actually it is an art, but I feel like my job is, it just feels like my job is to empower the actual artist to tell a story or to to bring vision to a moment or something. And I feel really, really good about knowing that I'm in good hands, that like there's a greater vision and my job is to bring this particular element, and I'm going to bring that element so that this larger vision can do what it needs to do. And I'm happy to be a part of that. Um, and so like I've struggled with like what's my actual art in this moment, because I really feel like I'm just kind of like bringing, like, let's say bringing one color to a larger painting, so like, but anyway, yeah. So I do think we have a responsibility ultimately. I just think that the way I see it for myself is my responsibility is to partner with storytellers, with directors who have something that they're trying to say that I agree with, and give my 2 cents to bring that message forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say when I saw this question, I wanted to answer it as the writer, Regina Gale, my responsibility. And I got this from James Baldwin, and I have now adopted it as my own. James Baldwin said, "The responsibility of the writer is to excavate the stories of the people who produced him." And I heard that. I actually met James Baldwin in 1986, right before he died. And I asked him, what advice would you give to a young artist like myself? And he said, keep the faith. And I've tried to do that, but I've also tried to ensure that I am excavating stories of the people who produced me, because I didn't get here by myself. I'm standing on someone's shoulders, and to honor them, I must write about them and tell their story. So that's my responsibility. And to the second part of your question, Jordan, I am doing that now with my latest work to honor African-American women. I can't wait to tell you more about it.
Well, Regina, how do you come behind that?
I know, it was just so eloquent. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Reggie.
Oh, man. So I just want to agree with the panel that it is a responsibility on artists to meet the moment. And it's like Kobe had shared earlier, where he's using or exercising his creative juices to create like a Black History video, producing that and then pushing that content out. I think the pandemic has given many of us a chance, even just for a little while, to slow down and be a lot more reflective, and in some cases to generate a little more juice creatively. So just in my lane, for example, I have this legendary coach, Coach Herman Hareed, who works at the former Lake Clifton High School, which used to be the largest high school in the United States. He's won 3 state championships back to back. And at the school that he coaches in, the last 3 valedictorians have all been his players, male basketball players, Black male basketball players. And in a school district where Black males are not normally the valedictorian, just being very candid. So I bring that up because knowing that story made me want to document his story. And I think that now that we're in, again, just going back to that point, in the pandemic, slowing down, as artists, we're able to kind of take on a little more responsibility to be more creative so that we can get more stories out there, or like Pierre said, participate in more stories where directors like you, Mrs. Wilson, can tell it and have people feel it and have people walk away having learned something from it.
I want to add to that, just since you were bringing up like everything that happened last year, and there was so many difficult things going on, and I feel like there was just such a huge shift in art that took place. And there was a question that I completely forgot about, but I want to introduce it because I think it's really important. Is how do you think art helps us to discuss those difficult topics? And I'll put that into the chat. Because I think that there has, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that there's been like a huge shift and that art has taken on a bigger responsibility. And
I absolutely agree with that. I agree with everything. I think this has really been pretty remarkable. This whole conversation. And so trying to give you guys a chance to respond. There was a couple things that I didn't get to respond to because we had so many. But one of the things when we talk about an artist that was able to unify, and I think of Chadwick Boseman, and I think of Black Panther, because that movie crossed all types of boundaries, all racial lines. I'm not a comic book person, and I love the movie, and I love the messages that were in the movie. And when I wrote Tears of the Soul, started doing Tears of the Soul as research for myself, and then started looking at the lives of the people, and then a story was formed from that. And I have to tell you, at our very first table reading with, I think, Regina and Devin, our original cast members, when we did that very first table read, and Pierre and Joel and all you guys, that very first table read, I did not even realize until then that I was saying something that was really resonating, through generations and, gender and all of that. And so that made me just really want to kind of stick with that. That's kind of how I work anyway. And somebody coins my plays as docu-plays because I'm always, pulling from history, and I'm always just trying to educate people about some of the things that have got us to where we are today, because we don't know the whole story. We only know bits and pieces of stuff. So I absolutely think that we should be responsible as artists, and I wish more people were responsible. I'm not saying everybody has to tell stories or certain things, but I do think we shouldn't handle this gift of creativity that we have irresponsibly. And then Pierre, what you were saying about being producing the piece and allowing other people to, realize their dreams or whatever. I'm right with you with that. I love to write and direct more so than acting, even though I started out acting. Okay, that's all I got.
I really appreciate that, Angela. I also apologize for getting the date for Tears of the Soul off. I think that I envy you guys for being writers because of that. And I want to start doing it on my own, of course, in my own time and in my own way and about my own thing. But I think there's so much power in being a storyteller in that way. I thought I had a lot more power being an actor as a storyteller because you're embodying these people and using your own story. But I think being a creator in that way is so much more impactful. To answer how do I think art helps us to discuss difficult topics, I think it's so much easier for us to talk about for a lot of us to talk about things when we don't have to come directly from like our raw self. When we have something to put it onto, there's an object. Like art is something, even if it isn't tangible, it's something you hear or see or feel. And so you can talk about whatever it is that you're feeling or whatever it is that you're thinking as a result of it through that thing. So it's so much easier for people to talk about something, and this is trigger warning, something like sexual assault through art. If they have something that they can relate it to, a person they can relate it to, if they're having difficulty talking about their own experiences. And I think about people who lived through like the civil rights era and maybe experienced some unspeakable traumas, and then looking at something like Tears of the Soul and then seeing, okay, through these characters, a part of my experience was lived. And I can talk about this right now because I see someone else going through that. I can say, this isn't just something that I've been too embarrassed or hurt to speak of. I can look at a character who I know you've seen this through. I feel validated. And now I have an opportunity to talk about the way that I've seen the world. And I know at least I won't be misunderstood because somebody out in the world understood it enough to produce it.
I feel like to answer that question, how do you think art helps us to discuss difficult topics? I feel like art kind of is like, it's like, oof. I had a whole analogy too. Every time I come on here, I'm struggling, guys. I don't know why. But it makes it manageable. That's what I was trying to say. Art makes difficult topics manageable. Like, if something heavy is really going on and someone does a funny movie about it, it was like, okay, that was funny. It's okay to talk about it. Or if the movie isn't funny, if it's really goring and just really heartbreaking, you can still like, okay, that was just a movie, but let's go talk about it. Um, you know, so it kind of just gives us that safety net to view it, hear it, or whatever. But then after someone has done what they've done first and given you that little demo, now you can talk about it and tell your experiences.
All right, I remember what I was going to say now. So I tend to look at this specific question in a manner of art gives way for people to humanize someone else. And that's probably really, I guess for me, what I really want to say. No matter cultural barriers, no matter sexual orientation barriers, we are all human beings who are all experiencing literally the same things, the same essential things, right? Trying to make enough money so we can feed our families, feed ourselves, and live a good life. That's it. Now, all the extra stuff that goes in between that, you can choose to add that complexity to someone else, or you can choose to just look at them as another human being who is experiencing the same things. This pandemic does not discriminate. It doesn't care if you're from China. It doesn't care if you're from America. It doesn't care if you're white. It's going to affect someone that you know. And so art gives way for me, for you to be able to humanize someone else, to see that you all breathe the same air that I breathe. You all love the same way that I love. You struggle the same way that I struggle. Like Regina said earlier, there's a lot of people that are kind of walking around aimlessly, don't even really realize that they are hurting. And people hurt no matter what their color is. But to be able to see that someone is hurt and they make choices and they make decisions based upon their hurt, it allows you to kind of take the personal out of it, and it allows you to see them as someone who's, a broken soul, someone who needs compassion, just like you would want compassion depending on what your situation is. So, just for me, it's just a way to look at someone else and say, I see you. And we're all dealing with stuff the same.
One of the
I just wanted to add briefly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
One of the quotes I heard beginning when all this was just coming out was, we're all in the same storm, but we all are in a different boat. And it is so to look at that, and we have to stop and think, like you just said, we all are dealing with stuff, but we're all dealing it in a different way. And we have to understand what everyone and listen. And I think a lot of people forget to stop and listen these days. There's just so much going on. And empathy, we got to bring that word back and really use it in through the arts, because that expresses, and also the same time, especially with children, they're being heard or taught now from us as parents. I'm a parent. But if I don't teach them the right way and show them what's going on with reality right now, and teach them and not just ignore it, they will never know either. And it's really important that we just take the time. And that's so hard, because the world, I don't know, the last year felt like I blinked and it's already 2021. However, I also am like realizing that before, and I was just always on the go. And now that being at home and taking that time with my children and my family, that I really needed that time to settle down and explain to them what is going on in this world and let them really take that in with me.
I just wanted to really quickly, when I saw this question, I thought about it. How do you feel art helps to discuss difficult topics? I was watching Dave Chappelle, and I like him. I don't always like the vulgarity, but when he of late, in my opinion, he's not trying to be funny. He is trying to convey a message. And one of the things that he said, for some of you, because his audience was predominantly white, he said, for some of you, you will only listen to a Black man if he has a punchline. And when he said that, it just triggered for me that, wow, you can even use comedy to discuss difficult topics as an art form. And because what he said, it was true. Well, many of them wouldn't be there if they didn't think he was funny, but they sat there and they even allowed themselves to be browbeat a little bit. And that would never have occurred if they didn't think his comedy was funny. So when he said that, I was just like, wow, he's right. They wouldn't be sitting here listening to a Black man if there were no punchline. They sat there waiting for it. And so that was the only thing I wanted to add, that as an example of how art can diffuse or help discuss difficult topics.
And I just want to, piggyback off of that incredible piece of insight. What I love about Dave Chappelle and like comedians, when they get up on stage, they kind of force you to, to be a little vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable if you're gonna listen and laugh. And something that I have come to appreciate is that art, specifically dramatic art, it kind of pushes you to be vulnerable, and that vulnerability, that empathy, encourages tolerance. I don't know about some of you guys, but let me tell you, I was raised in a very less than tolerant environment, and I was raised not to be tolerant. And as an adult, I've really been unlearning a lot of that stuff, and really unlearning and recognizing that wait a second. What we actually need is a greater sense of humanity, a greater sense of recognizing that the other is not the other. They're people just like we're people. And like Joelle was saying, we all love, we all experience pain. We're people, and hopefully we're evolving and growing into this less than tribal thing that we kind of come from or were raised in, and into more of this cohesive, we're in the same storm. We don't have to all be in individual boats. We could get together, make a bigger boat, we can. And I just think that's very important. Tolerance is important. And I think art helps us to be more tolerant.
Yeah, so that's all the questions. So I just want to say I loved listening to this. I thought it was really great, especially as a young artist. I've been doing it for like a very long time, but I'm still very young in my craft. And I think listening to all of this and taking it with me as I continue to grow and do more things is really great. And I love, loved, Joelle, what you said about art gives way oh crap, I wrote it in the chat. Art gives way for people to humanize someone else. I absolutely love that. That resonated so well with me, because I think last year a lot of intolerance was kind of let out into the open. And I think that people using art, especially American Skin, when I watched that, I was completely shocked. It was just so, especially being from Louisville, in a place where it's was so big, everything that was centered around Breonna Taylor and everything. I just think that was a really great way to reach people who weren't quite there yet. And so I just loved listening to everything that you guys had to say. So Angela and Nicole, if you guys want to say something else, that's all that I have.
Yes. I mean, I think we could go on with this because this is amazing, but we only have so much time. But what I will encourage you to do when we put it out on the 15th is have people listen to this discussion. I think that as an artist, if we haven't thought about it before, or if other people haven't thought about it before, like, why am I doing this? That this is definitely something that may make them think about it a little more. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this for attention? Or, why am I doing this? And it could be some of all of that. But at the same time, I think it's important to recognize who you are as an artist. And I'm going to say this last thing, right? Do nothing without intention. Absolutely. That was a quote from Devin, but I'm going to say this last thing. I think I feel like sometimes when I'm ready to write a new show, I'm hoping Tears of the Soul isn't my top, or that I can go further with my writing, but it just had so many messages and so many layers to it. And one of the most meaningful things when we were at the Chesapeake Arts Center the last time we did it, there was a gentleman, an older Caucasian gentleman came up to me, and he's older than me, maybe 70s or so. And tears were just all over his face. And I'm almost getting choked up talking about it. But he said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so ashamed. Thank you." And so that was so powerful to me. And I've also had Vietnam vets. That was so powerful to me that we were actually doing that, and he got it. And he was like, so it could be life-changing for people. So I think and the moment is whenever the moment is, but I think when you, refine yourself as artists, that there is going to be a moment, for you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nicole. If anybody has any last thing to say, like 30 seconds, and then we're going to go ahead and close this out.
Just want to say thank you for inviting me.
You're so very welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that. You guys are incredible. Thank you guys for taking the time. It just proves, as we're artists, that things can't stop us. We're still connecting tonight. We're still having, these conversations, which we cannot stop having. So I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedule and being and open up to, having these talks with us. And I can't wait to see you guys all on our stage at the Chesapeake Arts Center. Lots of different art there. Please come and be a part of it. It's not just theater, but we have everything, and I want you guys to participate, and I'm always wanting to hear, other things we can do with you guys. So thank you for having me on.
The visual arts are always impeccable too. I've always been very impressed every time that we're performing in there, and I see another exhibit there. It's great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, Angela, I just want to I just thank you so much for your mind, and you and I have had these conversations before, but when you as an artist are striving to find, roles and projects that have a lot of depth and really a lot of meaning, sometimes it's not very easy to come by. And so when you find someone who the way their brain works and the impact that they want to have on the audience, if that mirrors the impact that you want to have on the audience, it's like a match made in heaven. And that is why I continue to come back as Vivian Barnes, because it just means the world to me. That role has stretched me much further than I ever knew that I was even really capable of doing. And I'm just thankful that you continue to want to have these conversations and make them available for other people to be a part of the conversation as well. So I just thank you for always giving me an opportunity to flap my gums.
I just wanted to add on to that as well, because thank you so much, Angela, for giving me the opportunity to work with you, because it was very impactful for me, because I started working with you when I was a freshman in high school. Even though I am Black, I was still ignorant of stuff. I'm still ignorant about my history. So like working with you and these beautiful Black people here, it was really inspiring for me. And even being part of this conversation tonight was really inspiring as a young and aspiring artist. So I cannot thank you enough, Angela, for giving me the opportunity to work with you and for working with all these beautiful people here.
At the Chesapeake Arts Center. Don't forget that. But yes.
Yes, thank you, Chesapeake Arts Center. Sorry.
Absolutely, because they gave us a home to create. So
it's always going to be your home to create, guys. Always.
So all is well. Thank you, artists. Thank you, Jordan. You did a wonderful job. Jordan happens to be my cousin. Jordan is...
Great job, Jordan.
Yes, she is so talented. She's such a talented actress. I think you guys are going to see her name at some point. She's amazing. So thank you so much. And thank you all. And with that being said, I mean, we can go ahead and say good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye, guys.